Good afternoon on this 20th day of Level 4 lockdown in South Africa. My name is Mark Long, rector of the parish of St Andrews in Newlands, Cape Town. I've had a funeral midday today, so coming to you a bit later in the day. One guess as to the readings in the Eucharist today: Acts and the Gospel of John. I'd like to focus on Acts 17. It's a story that's always interested me. I continue to find it quite intriguing. Paul is in Athens, and he's clearly taken some time to explore the city, to talk to people, to find out their perspective, find out what interests them, find out what they're up to. And he's discovered this altar to an unknown god. The Athenians clearly quite religious people, and seeking to ensure that they haven't left a god out. When you ignore a god, there's always the danger of being hit by lightning at some point when you're not looking. So you just have the altar there just in case. A bit like us celebrating All Saints' Day. Just in case we've missed out on a saint, we include everyone. Paul uses this as a launching point to share the good news of what God is up to in Jesus Christ, and says, "Let me tell you about the unknown God." And he goes on to preach a quite lengthy sermon. But it's not the sermon that intrigues me, and it's not necessarily the message that he shares. It's the manner in which he goes about it. And that is that he takes the time to discover and to learn about the people he's going to be addressing. And having been through that process of learning, of exploration, he uses that to then approach people from within the context of their understanding of life. It's quite a novel approach, I think, for sharing the gospel in terms of today's world. We've come out of a couple of millennia where the church, certainly since Constantine, has been strong, and certainly in the West has controlled politics, nations. We're used to, in the church, having people come to us, not us having to go to them. And so there's kind of an expectation that people will know the Christian stories, that people will have an understanding of the faith. But of course, life in the last 30, 40, 50 years has changed quite dramatically. Certainly within most of our contexts in the West, much more secular society. Certainly in South Africa, democracy has meant that Christianity doesn't have the upfront, full-page space that it used to have. And we're discovering people just don't really have an understanding of what the Christian faith is about quite a lot of the time. And so need to actually take time out to find out where people are, and then to put in the effort of translating our understanding of what God is doing into other people's context of life. That's quite difficult, particularly if we haven't been used to having to do it. And perhaps reflects something of the struggles of lockdown. We're having to operate church in ways that we've never done before. But we're in a situation which demands that of us, and I think in many ways we're responding, and responding positively. But the wider sense of church is that we are moving into a time of, sometimes referred to as emerging church, that actually the axis, the world has swung on its axis in terms of faith. And it's not a world in which we can expect people to know what we're talking about. And we really do have to find ways of introducing our understanding of God and what God is up to. And the only way we can introduce that to people who really don't have any inkling sometimes of what it's about is to ensure that we understand their context and talk to them out of that. Paul gives us the example here in Acts 17. Not only does he talk from the point of view of having found the altar to the unknown God, but he quotes Athenian poetry to the Athenians. He says, "As your own poets say," and a lovely phrase that I've always loved: "In him we live and move and have our being." Probably one of my most favorite verses in the whole of Scripture. And it's out of that context that Paul preaches the love of God to the people of Athens, and many respond to that. So my prayer is that we would find the courage to similarly do things a little differently, and to be perhaps a little more empathetic and caring in the way that we do that.